Well, moms, thank you so much for being flexible in the last minute time change. I had a scheduling conflict, but anyway, not important. Welcome to day 2 of Master Your Mom Guilt. Today we are diving into inner child healing and reprogramming the subconscious mind. And as we get into this topic, you'll see why working with these two things is so important and why I didn't choose just inner child healing or just reprogramming the subconscious mind. These two things go very much hand in hand. Let's do a little recap of day 1. I am loving everybody's takeaways in the ones that you've shared with me or messaged me privately about claiming your identity in this phase of motherhood, whatever phase that is you find yourself in, is so key. It is a foundation on which this 3-day series is built. So that's why I chose these topics very intentionally to build on one another. And you'll see why reflecting on day 1 is really going to help you move through day 2. So as always, as you're hopping on, let me know you're here. Say hey, let me know where you're tuning in from. If you're catching this on the replay, hashtag replay and tag me in any of these questions or comments that you have as you're watching it through the replay. For those of you who are following along for the giveaway, I'm going to keep the entries open until Sunday when I'll announce the winner, because I recognize we're all very busy moms and it's not always easy to get on live. So you'll have until Sunday to do all of the entries that you have, which is watching the live videos, sharing your takeaways, tagging me in them. Oh, hey, aloha from Oahu. What's up, Lauren? So sharing your takeaways, tagging me in those entries, whether it's in the group or on your personal page, inviting friends in, and everyone will have until Sunday to do that. So you will have time if you were like really wanting to tune into this series but had a busy week. I want to extend the deadline, and then Sunday I'll make that announcement on who won the prizes. So let's dive right in. Inner child healing is probably one of my favorite subjects to talk about, to teach, to help my clients work through. And this was actually the bulk of my business before I shifted into postpartum mental health healing, doula work, supporting new moms. And I realized very quickly that this didn't have to be something that I gave up, because inner child stuff comes up so much in motherhood. It's such a key piece of healing that is often overlooked, right? When we talk about healing in motherhood, we think about physically healing, which is very important, the pelvic floor stuff, the abdominal stuff, all of that, getting your physical fitness back, tuning into your body. We think about the physical healing, and then we think about the mental health aspect. So the perinatal mood and anxiety disorders, the whole umbrella of that. We think in these terms. But my goal with this series, my goal with this group, and the work that I do is to open your eyes onto the other facets of healing work that can be done that is just as powerful to supplement whatever it is you are doing for yourself. If you're in therapy, if you're taking medication, if you're working with a hypnotherapist, whatever it is that you're doing, all of those things are great, and you can never have too many tools for your toolbox. And so, why inner child healing in motherhood? Like, I'm taking care of my own kids. I don't need to worry about anybody else's kid. This is why it's important. Hey, Lakeisha. If you haven't noticed already, motherhood can be incredibly triggering for old wounds that you've either thought that you've dealt with or that you've repressed. And why for mom guilt? Well, because as we get into this series a bit deeper, you'll see how inner child healing and unhealed inner child wounds can really guide how we view ourselves and how we view mom guilt. I'm going to run you through some prompts and an exercise later on that is going to help you link up your inner child with mom guilt. So as kids, what did you crave? What did we all crave? Security, safety, love, attachment, acceptance. Now, when I was writing these notes for this class, hey Kayla, when I was writing the notes for this class and really tapping into what I felt everyone needed to hear, acceptance was the word that really jumped out. And think about what acceptance means for a child. Specifically, what did acceptance mean for you as a child? Being accepted by your family, whatever your family looked like. Everyone's family is different. Acceptance by your peers. Acceptance by whoever, your teachers, your coaches, your community. And think about what we talked about yesterday. Feeling the need to edit yourself to be accepted in mom culture. By your families, by your kids, by your peers. Whatever we craved as kids, that need either was not met, was neglected. Those things set a foundation for the beliefs that we have about ourselves and the world around us. And if they are not dealt with, if they are not faced, that's how we repeat these cycles of negative thoughts, of guilt, of anxiety, of shame in our mind, and how it impacts our ability to show up in motherhood. We have the capacity to hold multiple emotions. Your past traumas, your past experiences do not need to prevent you from having success and happiness as a mother. This is not about bypassing those things. This is about looking them head on and saying, I love you anyway. So why inner child healing again in motherhood? There's a saying that's floating around the internet that I've seen, this meme, many iterations of it, that says something along the lines of be the parent that you wanted as a child. But I'm going to tell you that that's unhealthy. Yes, there are things that you wish you had in your childhood that you bring to your experience as a mom. That is a normal thing. But what that phrase is unconsciously telling you is that you need to replicate the childhood you wish you had for your own kids instead of meeting your kids where they are and giving them the parent that they need. Inner child healing is important because you don't want to use your kids to work through your own shit. Those unhealed traumas will project on those around you. And it's just another way to avoid doing the work for yourself. And it can be painful work. It can also be really joyful and playful and fun, which we'll talk about. But it can be painful to sit with yourself, see the wounds that still require support and healing, and actively make a choice to work through them. It's much easier to give everything to your kids at all times, but what does that do? We talked a bit about this yesterday. It creates separation between your true self and the person that you are trying to be, which leads to resentment, which leads to frustration. It puts you in that martyr role, that selfless role, less of yourself, and distances you further from the person as a mom, as a human that you are meant to be. And it requires a bit of depth. It requires a bit of looking at yourself and where you want to move forward. But that's why there's support. You don't have to do this alone. That's why you sign up for classes like this. That's why you join groups like this. That's why you reach out to other moms. We're not meant to experience motherhood in a vacuum. You're not meant to heal in a vacuum. You are worthy enough and deserving enough of receiving support and of fully being seen as you. The shadow part, the light part, all of it. And so when we think about the inner child and the subconscious mind, the overlap that happens is our subconscious mind is developed between the ages of birth 0, and 7. In those ages, we're really absorbing the world around us from a theta state. Our brain goes through various states throughout the day, throughout each moment, and each different state correlates to how that person, that brain, is absorbing information. Theta state is really that state you hit when you are in a deep meditation. You're fully just, it's that juicy kind of time of, am I falling asleep or am I awake right now? If you've ever had a Reiki session, it's something you might experience there. If you've had a really good massage, when you're very, very relaxed. Your mind is also a sponge at that time, which is why if you meditate for creativity or for, getting guidance on something, that's why so many ideas flow through. You are a sponge at that age. And so it's important to think in those ages, what was occurring in your life? What did you learn about yourself and the world around you in those formative years? Now, there could be wounds that sprout up from any point in time in your childhood, your adolescence, but really looking at those foundational years, because we want to get to the root of your unhealthy thoughts and the root of where you can receive the most healing and get to it and work through it quickly, right? You don't need to continue to work through the same traumas and the same experiences over and over. So if we can dive to the root very quickly of where mom guilt is coming out through your inner child, through your experience in motherhood, you can accelerate your healing. So what did you miss out on in those years, and how is it playing out in motherhood? Maybe, I'll just share some common limiting beliefs that I hear, or some common ways that I see this, is you didn't know what to expect because you grew up in a really chaotic household and you were hypervigilant as a child. And so as a mom, you are overly anxious about making any decisions for your kid, and you feel guilty about every single decision that you make, or you avoid making decisions because you don't want to make the wrong one. So some common and limiting beliefs that can come out of those years is, I don't really like the phrase limiting belief, so I'm going to say unhealthy thought. I'm not good enough. I'm not capable enough. I can't make these decisions. I'm a failure. It's probably the biggest thing that I hear. I always feel like a failure. Well, what does success as a mom look like for you? There is no right or wrong way. So I'm going to share a couple of prompts that are really helpful to get through and work through some unhealthy thoughts. And again, if you are catching this on the replay, or if you're catching this live, I will create a worksheet with all of these things. So if right now, however you're tuning in, is not safe or available for you to work through these questions, you can print it out and work through this in your journal later on. Or you can just have these questions as a point to reflect on. So take a minute and just jot down in your journal, if you're able to right now, what the most pressing unhealthy thought you have is right now. And I just want to stick with one, because often when you're in a loop of these unhealthy thoughts and you feel like you have to conquer them all, it becomes so overwhelming that you just don't do the practices. So think about one, and the first one that comes up into your mind is exactly the right one that you should work on right now, or that you get to work on right now. So take a minute and just think about what is the most pressing, most unhealthy thought that you are having about yourself right now, whether it relates to mom guilt or your experience in motherhood. Yeah. So I'll give you a minute to do that. And then I want you to think about, what was the first time you remember that this thought occurred to you? And again, I don't want you to really sit and analyze and feel like, oh, I don't think there was like one specific event. If there wasn't one specific event that you can tie to, this unhealthy thought, it's okay. Maybe it was just a general theme of your childhood. Maybe it was just a general theme of something. But just think about maybe the first time you remember that this occurred to you. Is there a person you attach this thought or this theme to? If there's a specific person you attach this thought or this theme to, is that the voice behind your mom guilt? And then when did you decide that this thought was true? When, sorry, a big clunk from my neighbor's house. When did you decide that this unhealthy thought you have about yourself is just the way you are? That's just the way I am. That is, telling yourself that's just the way I am is one of the most limiting things you can tell yourself, because it releases the capacity for you to grow past the point in life in which you are. Hey, Tristan. So if you're just telling yourself, that's just the way I am, then you'll stay stuck. And release, that's the way I used to be, but that's no longer the way I want to show up in this phase of my life. Oh, I'm just not consistent. I'm never accountable. It's just the way I am. Well, then you're never going to work past that. So think about how that's impacting this unhealthy thought you have looping around in your mind. And how does that impact your experience as a mom now? So when did you decide that that unhealthy thought about yourself was true, and how is it impacting how you show up in your life right now? Shouldn't just say as a mom, but as a human, how is that impacting your ability to show up in your life? If this thought was a non-issue, like somebody just, I came in, waved a magic wand, and I removed that thought from your brain, what would your life look like? What would your life feel like? And the goal is to really bridge the gap between going through that loop and that thought, that unhealthy thought that you continue to have about yourself, into having your life look, feel, and be like that version of you that no longer has that thought. And it's not about repressing it, it's about reprogramming it. Now, if you feel really stuck on trying to figure out the origin of this thought, where it came from, who it came from, a really great way to tap into your inner child and tune into that energy is to go into your journal, take these questions, which I will email out later on today with a link to the replay. Use your non-dominant hand to journal on these questions. It activates in your mind your inner child. So just taking these questions and looking through them, we can move through, I have this thought, this is where it came from, this is how it's showing up, and this is what I want my life to look like without these thoughts. And through this practice, we bridge the gap between reprogramming versus repressing those thoughts. It would be harmful if I just told you to stop thinking that thought, because that's not doing anything. It's just telling you that there's something wrong with that thought, and there's nothing wrong with it. It's just not correct for you anymore. So constantly telling yourself that I never make the right decisions. Maybe in the past you struggle with decision making, but this phase of your life, you get to feel confident in your ability to make decisions. It's understanding that you can believe you have the capacity to hold more than one emotion at the same time. You can be fearful about making decisions while also knowing you are a good mom. Motherhood throws a lot at, I'm just using the decision-making thing as an example, is because it's something that it's a recurring theme that I've seen in this group and with the moms that I've connected with. You can be working through your ability to make decisions, your ability to rework these unhealthy thoughts, and also be a good mom. And also know that working through these strengthens what a good mom looks like for you. These aren't character defects. These aren't things that are wrong with you. These are things you get to work through. Because the better you feel, the more healing you engage in for yourself, the more everyone in your life is impacted. Because when you feel relieved, when you feel confident, you get to show up in a much different light and a much different energy. And this is not to say that you're never going to have a bad day again. No. This is to help you have more good days than bad days. This is to help you feel more comfortable in your skin. This is to help you feel like you are safe enough to slow down and be with your thoughts, that you are safe enough to take time for yourself. Because so often, like I said earlier, so often we just give to our kids, we give to everyone else, our careers, our kids. We're either hyper ambitious with the work that we do, or we martyr ourselves in motherhood, because slowing down long enough to think about the thoughts that are happening in our mind can be very scary, can be very painful, and can be very uncomfortable. And so now is the time to sit with that little version of you, whether it's 5-year-old you, 7-year-old you, 13-year-old you, and understand what was she missing and how can you fill that gap now. And you fill that gap by working through these unhealthy thoughts and letting that little version of you know she's safe, she's nurtured, she's taken care of, and she is more than enough. She is more than capable. So some simple ways that you can tap into your inner child, again, like I said, the writing with your non-dominant hand, dancing, playing, singing. We don't value play in our society, in our culture, because it's not outcome driven, much like motherhood. Play is not seen as something useful. And so take a look at, what did play look like when you were a kid? Were you given that creative space to play and have fun, or was it restricted? Did you just... Were things very controlled, very structured? And so, giving yourself time to play as an adult, it's like, no, I have chores to do, I have work to do, I have things to do. And this doesn't just mean engaging in play with your kids. This means engaging in a play that's meaningful for you. So maybe it's being silly, maybe it's coloring, maybe it's just dancing to your favorite song. These are quick, simple practices you can do to start to nourish that child within you. But it starts with identifying that unhealthy thought, what need was not being met. Again, whether it's safety, security, acceptance, love, attachment, nurturing. This is the process of reparenting yourself, and it's so important. And so how can you work through these unhealthy thoughts? There's a number of different ways. You can write them out and tell your thoughts they're ridiculous. I've done that on many occasions. Like, oh, no, that's a ridiculous thought. And it's not to shame yourself. It's sometimes the thoughts in our head can feel so real, can feel so visceral. And when we get them down on paper, we're like, okay, I was spiraling. It's interrupting the spiral. It's recognizing when you're in that loop of unhealthy thoughts and almost like putting your hand in there and saying, no, we're not going down there today. This is input. I appreciate your input, but I'm not buying into this thought. I am feeling anxious and I love myself. If you have that unhealthy thought creeping in, you can acknowledge it. It's important to acknowledge it, because the more we ignore it or try to, oh, clear, cancel, delete, blah, 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 get that out of here, the more we repress it and the more we're bypassing ourselves. So the unhealthy thought comes in. I'm a failure. Ooh, thanks for the feedback, but I'm not interested today. I can feel like a failure and love myself. It's taking these little moments and reprogramming them, little by little by little, until the thoughts no longer occur, or until the distance between those thoughts no longer occur, until we slow down the spiral. Affirmations are great, but if you don't believe in them, if you don't have the buy-in to them, then what's the point? We miss the key aspect of affirmations by just repeating affirmations someone else tells us to. And if it doesn't sound like it's coming from us, or if it completely bypasses the pain we might be experiencing related to those unhealthy thoughts, it's continued to be stuck in a loop, or you just don't show up for the practices. So, I will send out these journal prompts to everyone who is signed up through the link for this class. If you are not already, again, I'll post it in the link, or I'll post it in the comments. You'll have until Sunday to do all the fun giveaway stuff. So the giveaway outline is this: showing up to watch the videos, whether it's live or on the replay, and the main takeaway that you have from that video, share in the group or share on your personal page and tag me in it, and let me know what spoke to you, what your breakthrough is, what your main takeaway is, and how you're working through it. And then you also get extra entries for inviting friends into the group. But again, I think I said this in the welcome video. Make sure you're actively inviting them and not just clicking the invite button, because I really want people coming into this space who are excited about coming in and not just added in without their knowledge or consent. So yeah, I can't wait to hear everybody's feedback and everyone's takeaways. So enjoy day 2, whether you caught us live, thank you, or are catching it on the replay. Again, hashtag replay and tag me in your questions. And everyone's questions and thoughts and feedback from yesterday was so incredible. I can't wait to connect with everyone later today. Yes, thank you. Kayla, you have really sent some amazing mamas in here, and for everyone who does continue to invite and share these trainings and this group with other moms, I really appreciate you. But yeah, let me know, are there any questions now on this? Like, while I have people live, I realized I forgot to stop and do that yesterday. So any questions on this, any support that you might need on things that came up from this video today. Tomorrow's video is going to be about connecting with tools that you feel connected with and creating a vision for your life, to creating a vision of guilt-free living for your life. I'm going to condense that title and make it a little bit more fluid. But yeah, tomorrow we're talking about creating a vision and how you can connect with some really powerful tools so that you don't feel like you need to ditch your practice because you're not doing all of the things all the time. So if there are no questions, then I will pop off and come back whenever. Something I need to work on in my own personal practice is ending live videos. There doesn't feel like a non-awkward way to do it. So thank you so much for watching, and I'm excited to check in with all your feedback, questions, all of it. Thank you. I appreciate you all.